If you're interested in a slow living lifestyle, but you're not sure if it can really apply to you because you've got such a busy life, then I'm here to tell you that it can absolutely be done. And in this video, I'm going to go through 6 tips to practice slow living even when you have a busy life. And with that being said, it's worth saying right at the start that slow living isn't about slowing down the literal pace at which you live your life. Slow living is about bringing more balance into your life, paying more attention to the things that really matter to you, and carving out time in your life for those things rather than being on the constant treadmill of doing. So let's get into the tips. Tip number 1 is not taking on too much. We live in such a fast-paced world, and the theme seems to be that we need to hustle in order to succeed in life. And therefore the temptation is to fill every single hour of our lives doing something. And we might be under the impression that the more we do, the more productive we are, but there is such a thing as being busy but not productive. So if you do have a lot of things on and you're starting to feel overwhelmed, ask yourself these questions. Is this thing that I'm doing absolutely necessary for me to do? Do I need to do this thing, or can I delegate it to somebody else? Do I need to do this thing right now, or can I postpone it and do it at a later date? Tip number 2 is to set boundaries. I used to be a bit of a people pleaser, and setting boundaries was not something I was very good at. But I don't know if it's my age or I just got a bit wiser, but nowadays I'm far better at saying no to the things that I don't want to do. Now, of course, I know that there are going to be things in life that we need to do that we don't necessarily want to do, but I'm not talking about that. If you're someone who consistently says yes to things because you put other people's needs before your own, and then your own needs get neglected, it's really important to start setting your own personal boundaries. And saying no to things doesn't necessarily have to be in the form of a straight no. You can do it in a way that works well for you and the other person, but where you are expressing what you need. So it could be that you say, I'm really sorry, I can't do that thing right now, but let me check my availability and I can check when I can do it. Or you can say, I'm really not sure about that, let me check and get back to you. So that gives you a bit of time to think about it, and depending on your answer, thinking through how you're going to respond. Number 3 is to switch off from work outside your working hours. As a mental health professional, I've worked with many people who have had trouble switching off from work outside of work. And often these people were checking their work emails outside of work, so really they were never able to detach themselves from work. Now, you might be someone who has work emails on your personal phone, and I get that can be really difficult. So you might want to think about whether you can mute the notifications and then really be strict with yourself about not checking, or you might want to uninstall the email app from your phone over the weekends or any other time when you're not in work, and then reinstall it when you're back in work, which I know is a lot of effort, but if it's going to give you that headspace from work, then it's well worth it in my opinion, because we all need downtime from work, whether we would admit to it or not. Number 4 is to spend more time outside. I've worked at home for a few years, and it was all too easy to stay indoors and not get outside at least once a day. But sitting at my desk whilst eating my lunch wasn't doing me any good, and really I never got a break because I'd end up answering an email or doing something whilst I was eating. But gradually I built up the habit of going for a brisk 15-minute walk each lunchtime so that I could get away from my desk and get some fresh air and clear my mind, ready to reset for the afternoon ahead. And we're not just talking about getting outside during the working day. When you're not in work, try to do some sort of activity that gets you outside, whether it's walking or running or gardening. I really think that connecting back in with the world around us, and especially with nature, is a really important part of slow living, because it helps us to step away from the treadmill and helps us to remember that there is life outside of work. Tip number 5 is to schedule breaks in your day. So aside from your lunch break, you might want to schedule in some smaller breaks into your day as well. It might be just a few minutes to make yourself a drink and just step away. I know it's not always possible to do this, but I think these small breaks are just as important, because we can get into a cycle of doing. We just keep pushing forward because we think that if we do that, we will be more productive. Whereas if we took some small breaks during the day, that would just give us a few minutes to reset and go back to our work feeling a bit more refreshed and alert. Tip number 6 is to plan ahead for some slow activities during the week. So slow activities might be things like reading or painting or gardening, or whatever helps you to slow down, take a step back and take time out. And the reason I say plan ahead, because when we do plan these things in, we're more likely to do them. Whereas if we just kind of wing it and say, oh, I'll just figure something out on the day, those sorts of things tend to get pushed to the wayside because other seemingly more important things are addressed first. There's always oh, I'll do that tomorrow, or I'll do that next week. I need to get on with this thing first. But having those slow activities, those self-care activities, and treating them just as important as the other things we need to do is a great way of incorporating slow living living into your lifestyle. And if you're still a bit unsure of adopting a slow living lifestyle and you want to know some of the ways that slow living can change your life, then check out the video that's on the screen. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again soon.